Let's see if
All
this
right.
gives me a nice green thing there. Yeah. Hey, it's working. And it's working pretty decently.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, introduce yourself. I mean, this is a video, brother.
Oh yeah, this is tape plays, and you can see the YouTube image in the background there. That's because my other channel got dropped due to copy claims. Yeah. For reference, I know you can't see it, SP, but the little dude flipping YouTube off is up for the background image.
Okay. I mean, like, so what do we want to talk about? I mean, people may not find this video while we're streaming it, but they eventually will. You want to hit up some science, some paranormal, some philosophy? What's up?
Eh, anything, everything. It's up to you.
Well, uh, all right. Well, one of my favorite topics, I mean, since this is just a random video for a stream test, one of my favorite topics that I've went on about on several different occasions is the possibility, the likelihood that we're not alone in the universe. Now, I'm not saying that, for definitely that there's gray aliens or that there's these reptilians or that there's, a specific kind of alien. What I am saying is the universe is so vast, possibly infinite in its expansion, and, that there really must be something else out there. I mean, if you look at quantum mathematics, Tate, just in how quantum mathematics are laid out,
Right.
the idea, the idea of something coming into being in a singular fashion, it defies physics. You know, given an infinite space and an infinite amount of time, the idea that life only happened once here on planet Earth with this wide diversity of life. I mean, look at the life we have here on planet Earth. You know what I'm saying? We don't just have humans, which a lot of people that think about extraterrestrials and aliens and life on Earth, they're thinking about human-like life. But you have to consider we have diseases, we have microbes, we have germs, we have plants, we have birds, we have fish, um, multiple genders of each species. Some species are just a single gender, but nonetheless, look at the variety of life we have here on planet Earth. How can you look out into the cosmos with a veritable smorgasbord garden of life here? And we know for a fact, going through how we've aged the universe and how we've aged the planet Earth from a scientific viewpoint, we haven't been here very long, on a universal cosmic scale.
Well, technically, there's two neat little things that brought up. Uh, did you know that
Okay.
they supposedly found bacteria that is not Earth-bound? It comes from another origin on the whole of the ISS here lately.
I've heard of that, and here's the thing about that, though. Um, there's been a lot of claims like that in the past. If you remember, it may have been in the 60s or the 70s, Tate, they were sending weather balloons, up to the stratosphere. And, at the edge of the stratosphere, you're basically just right at the edge of space, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so when these weather balloons came down and they went to recover these weather balloons, they had some sort of slime or goo on them. And no scientist could identify this goo, but all scientists seem to agree that whatever this goo was that was on these balloons, it was organic.
So they got snotballed.
Yes, from space. The reason that I bring this up, so this bacteria, this organic substance that they found on the ISS space station, it doesn't shock me. But the problem with these discoveries like this is when it's something like little germs or little microbes or little parasites, there's a smaller group of people that are actually interested in that. What people are actually looking for with extraterrestrial life or, another life form is an intelligent, advanced, a technologically advanced species that are comparable to us. That's what excites people. The problem is that because of studies like this, it's almost a confirmation that there is life in the universe beyond just planet Earth. But ironically enough, people don't show a lot of interest, until they see a UFO or until, they get these stories of these really highly technologically advanced species abducting them from their bedrooms. It leads to a question: are people looking for life beyond planet Earth, or are they looking for, like Star Trek? Do they want to meet the Klingons? Because it's almost all but proven that, outside of our planet Earth, there's life.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, hell, there's that one, and what was the other one? I forgot now. I literally forgot.
There's a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
examples, man.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
You know
I'll let
about
you in on a secret that, huh?
you know about panspermia, right?
Well, yeah, panspermia, the idea that life didn't begin here on Earth, or, really in general, the idea that life didn't begin anywhere that we can conceive or think of, that life spreads to the universe and in much the same way through asteroids, through large boulders, through collisions, through contact, from through I'm sure that showed up in the video. Um,
Oh, good.
yeah. So here's the deal. Could it be possible that life began and spread from somewhere else far out in the cosmos? Yeah. I mean, I believe it's possible. Consider this. Whether you're a guy that, from a scientific standpoint, wants to believe that life spread from this point of the universe to Earth, or whether you're a guy that wants to believe in intelligent design and creation theory, no matter what you believe, Tate, unless your belief is simply to abstain from the idea, of extraterrestrial life, even if God created the planet, that is a life form from beyond planet Earth that created life. So panspermia is almost guaranteed, really, no matter what thought process you use,
Oh yeah.
no matter how logically you rationalize it.
Yep, yep. Oh, I ran across something neat here.
What's up?
You know, me and you have kept up with Paranoid Times.
Oh, I love his intro music. No, I gotta be fair. I gotta be fair. I watched a lot of what Paranoid Times does, but since we're putting it on blast here and we're mentioning him, his intro music is the bomb.
Yeah, it's good. It's like a off-key fringe intro from the TV
I'm one of
show.
those people. I'm one of those weird people. You've seen me do it. If I find a song I like, I will wear that song completely out until it has no value anymore.
Yeah, yeah, you do,
So
man.
yeah, I, I sometimes find myself going to his channel, right? And as soon as the theme song is over, I just back it up and listen to it again. I'll listen to that theme song 3 or 4 times before I finally allow the video to start.
I bet his watch time is like 2 minutes on each video, and he's trying to figure out why it's costing you.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to mess with his analytics and take his overall watch time down. He's just got the neatest theme song, and I love his stuff.
I love it. But he posted a subject here, and I know it's one of your one of your little hang-ups there. But it is the octopuses are invading.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess since this is a new crowd of people and a new channel, I guess I need to explain myself a little bit.
Oh no, octopuses are creepy as fuck, dude.
Well, they're strange. They're abnormal, and different from all forms of life on Earth. Even within the ocean, yeah, you can find squids and such as that, but let's just talk about the octopuses. They're different from anything else on Earth, from anything else we've ever discovered. They display Out of studies, they've displayed signs that they like to actually socialize with one another, that they can actually distinguish themselves from one another. They've shown signs of high intellect.
Huh.
Um, yes, and one of my greatest fears, of course, is the mimic squid.
Huh.
That's a squid, right, that is so intelligent that if it sees you, swimming around in the ocean, it will swim up to you in a fashion that looks like another human diver. It will take its long tendrils and shape itself to look at a distance like it's a human diver swimming up to you as a human would.
Until it grabs you and eats you.
Well, I mean, what's the most scary thing about these guys is their massive, intelligence. They seem to have an intelligence. I mean, I'm not saying that, a mimic squid is running around doing physics or quantum math, but, in the water, in their element, the way they sneak up on divers and swimmers and, without being detected, it almost seems like they possess a high intelligence, an intellect, if you would.
Hmm. They are interesting. There's some weird stuff going on with their genetics too.
Some weird stuff going on with all genetics, man. If you study genetics enough, me and you have discussed quantum entanglement, right?
Ah,
Okay, well, here's the thing, and I mean, the audience will just have to hang with us. We can't recap on every little scientific theory that we have and every possible aspect of science to catch the world up. We're assuming, that when we use phrases like quantum physics, and astrophysics, black holes, white holes, multiverse theory, that you guys already know. If you're still listening to the video, it's a safe bet that you do. Um,
oh yeah.
so the idea with quantum entanglement is this. I'm not going to recap what quantum entanglement is because there's any one of 100, maybe 1,000 videos on YouTube right now where someone can look up quantum entanglement. But genetically, on a genetic level, they discovered, I believe it was in 2015, that part of the human genome can speak to another part within the same genome in very much of a quantum entanglement fashion. It's not chemical, it's not electrical, it's not a physical force. It's just like a quantum gene manipulation from a different location within the genome itself.
Yep, they're communicating, man, using spooky interaction over a distance.
Spooky interaction over a distance is the same thing, though. This is just my theory on it, you know. Well, actually, it's not my theory, it's my opinion on it. But, spooky interaction at a distance is the idea that gave birth to, quantum theory. Like, to call it spooky interaction at a distance would be like looking at a smartphone, at this day and age and saying, well, gee, that smartphone sure does have a nice picture tube in it. You know, um, quantum physics came from the idea of spooky interaction, so it's not incorrect. But it's just spooky action at a distance is so rarely used anymore.
What it is back then, Einstein had an idea of what it was, but he didn't know exactly what it was, and he's not going to phrase it like us,
Yeah,
because
I've studied. Well, go ahead, brother.
because like our vocabulary grows as we go,
Yeah, I mean, I've studied so much of what Einstein does. For anybody out there that's really interested in science, physics, quantum mathematics, studying Einstein is just this very wonderful thing to do because, if you're scientifically minded, while you study Einstein and you listen to his theories and you try, because Einstein was a very visual person. When he studied his theories, when he wrote his equations, inside his mind there was a visual representation of these things going on. He was a very imaginative guy. So as you study what Einstein has to give, you actually build your own picture and you see it in the same ways that Einstein did, and it's amazing, to study Einstein. It really is. When you truly start to understand some of what Einstein knew back then, and you realize how far ahead of the game Einstein was and still is till this day, it's just mind-blowing. I would recommend studying Einstein's theories and principles to anyone.
It is, man. But if you'll notice, with every person who's ahead of the game, there's gonna come a few kinks in reality, like Einstein's watches on his ankles.
I wouldn't so much call that a kink in reality as I would call that breakdown, right? Consider this. If you've got a piece of machinery and you use this piece of machinery often, you know, this piece of machinery is eventually going to break down. Everything that you use eventually breaks down. It's not uncommon for very, very brilliant people to go stark raving mad.
True. Very true.
Um,
I mean, look at Tesla. He tried to nuke a whole town.
right. You have to realize that, when we talk about Tesla, when we talk about Einstein's later breakdowns in his mental health, um, we're talking about people that had a lot of pressure on them. We're talking about people who the scientific communities around the world hung on their every word. Can you imagine the pressure that was put on these people?
Oh yeah.
Um, just like with anything that, gets a lot of use, you're using that thing. Eventually, that thing that you use is going to break down. Now, while some people are born geniuses and die geniuses, it's very, very common for, geniuses to literally go mad because of all the pressures and all the, so Einstein's thinking was, later in his life after his mental breakdown, was that if I wear these watches around my ankles, I will actually save time in between the seconds as I step. You know,
Well, if you think about it, that could have been the birth of the pedometer.
it was more or less in Einstein's mind. It was more or less in Einstein's mind the birth of time being relative rather than being a static thing.
Yeah.
Einstein didn't fully understand and grasp, time's place within relativity. But, later scientists have, I think we spoke of C.E.R.N. He was a genius that solved one of Einstein's unsolvable equations
Hmm.
with his ring singularity theory. Um, if you look back, you know, Einstein was just beginning to comprehend that time flowed differently for different objects depending on their inertia and their acceleration and the forces that were interacting with them. That entropy itself did not affect all physical matter in the same ways.
Hmm.
And this was at the same time that he was slowly losing his mind. So he came to the conclusion that if I wear these watches around my ankles as I take steps, I'm going to save seconds on my life.
Hmm.
So he had come to the realization that time was relative and that it was a physical dimension within, the 10 dimensions we have in string theory. Um, but he was also quite literally, because of all the stress and all the studies and all the pressure, he was quite literally going mad at that time.
Very true. Very true.
So even as a mad man that was losing his mind, Einstein was still one of the most brilliant minds on earth.
Talking about lost time, for some reason in the back of my mind that brought up the name John Teeter.
John Tater.
I don't know
Why is
why.
that? Well, I mean, first of all, I have to ask you, do you know who John Tater was?
I read some stuff about him. I think he was the guy that showed up, was claiming he was from the future and then disappeared on a forum board.
Yes, yes. John Tater was this guy that showed up on the net, I believe, circa 2005. Was that about right?
I'm not for sure, to be honest.
He showed up on message boards and he basically said, "Look, I'm from the future. I've come back to warn you about some things that are going to happen." And about John Titor, interestingly enough, was that a great deal of his predictions came true and it still are coming true. So, his story sounds fascinating. It's really hard to believe that he legitimately did what he claimed that he did, but at the same time, you can't deny that a lot of what he predicted did come to pass.
Well, okay. Since this is how my brain is working today, we have in the conversation a few minutes ago Paranoid Times, and now this John Teeter guy. Do you think the what is that one series? I'm a physicist at CERN about that one guy.
Yeah. Here's the thing about stuff like that. The reason that a real scientist will overlook stories like the John Teeter story and the I'm a physicist at CERN is ultimately the only proof you have for credibility in those stories is that some guy said this on a message board that never showed credentials. The funny thing about the scientific community is you could come up with a theory today, me or you could come up with a theory today that cured the world of all disease, right? And it could be a working theory that actually cures all disease. But because me and you are not credited scientists and we don't have a lot of backing in the scientific community, we will be scoffed at, even though that theory is accurate and correct.
Ain't that a
It's
whooping?
the thing about science is it's just like anything else in life. Who you know is more important than what you know, and it's a giant power struggle.
I guess I should have paid them dues then.
I mean, for reals.
Yeah. I don't know though, man. Anybody who says, "Hey, look, if you want to be a part of this community, give me $50," nah, that's a little shady.
It's really not as shady as what you're thinking. I understand why you think that it's shady. Dude, my Mensa test cost me $500 and I still paid it.
Really, man?
Yes.
Good
There's a
lord.
reason for that. Look, here's the thing. And a lot of people can agree or disagree. And they're welcome to do that because everyone is free to have their own opinions. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But here's the thing. Some doors are not going to just magically open without any effort.
True.
Sometimes it takes the effort of going to college and studying. Sometimes it takes the effort of financial backing. Sometimes it takes the effort of the right friends supporting you. But no doors magically open just by themselves for no reason.
Very true. Very true. What is it Deadpool says? Maximum effort?
Exactly.
Very true. I mean, but still, back then at that time, man, it was like 98, 99, 2000 when the internet was first starting, before Mensa even went international, like on their website.
I mean, I want to say 1998, but if you look back on the internet, there's a lot of people on the internet, specifically on YouTube and Wikipedia, claiming that the internet's been around since, well, everybody knows that it's technically been around since the 1960s when it was boring and done nothing and it was just for businesses, blah, blah, blah. But
Yes.
a lot of people are claiming that the internet as we know it today has actually been around since 91. And to be perfectly honest, I don't remember it being around in 91. It seems like it was closer to 2000.
Hell, it was 96, 97 before we got it out here in the sticks. And
That's
it
what I
was,
thought.
it
But
was,
I mean, there are so many people till this day that claim that no, that the internet as we know it, the browser friendly www version, has been around since 91.
oh no, man, it was the AOL hell back then. You had to use their browser. You had to sign in through that screeching demon of a modem.
Oh my gosh, I will take this time to still, show some disrespect for AOL. And here's the reason why. Now, the disrespect that I'm showing for America Online it isn't because that, that we're sponsored or that we have any kind of agenda. I signed up for AOL back in, I think it was 94. I signed up for AOL and I paid my bill. And then I was like, okay, I've had a few months of AOL. I'm ready to move on to something else. And they're like, no, you can't leave. If you leave, you owe us $500. I was like, what? They're like, yeah, if you leave, you have to pay us $500. And I was like, you know what? Have fun trying to take it from me. I'm leaving and you're not getting another penny.
Oh, dude, they done me the same way. And then, being the dummy I am, I decided one day just to see if I could log back in. And
Mm-hmm.
AO Hell sent me a virus on my computer, dude. You know that whole thing about how they were triple firewalled and there was no viruses getting into their
No,
servers?
yes, that's actually kind
Yeah.
of common knowledge. They would, and the kind of viruses they used to send back in that day, if I'm not mistaken, was the DLL.32 worms.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Sure
Yeah,
enough.
they were actually using viruses to scare their customers into staying.
Mm.
And I just told them like it was. It's like, look, if you think you can show up at my home and take $500 from me, from my pocket,
Yeah.
please come. You know,
Yeah. But dude, I do remember those days when that screeching demon of a modem would load a picture in like, I don't know, 15 minutes, and we thought that was fantastic. Even though the type of pictures I tried to load was, yeah, I'd get done doing what I was doing before her nose would pop up. But yeah.
you know, and I mean, think about the pricing stages back then. $500 for what was basically 33.6, or was it 33.4? It wasn't even 56K internet at that time.
I think it was 33 4. When I joined, though, it was 56K in like 96, 97.
Well, that's if you had a 56K flex modem. I mean, a lot of people back then didn't.
I thought it was 56K. It might have been
So,
34.
so check this out, man. The best computer money could buy back then, as far as what we were working with, the home built stuff, $500 was a very nice machine back then.
Mm-hmm.
So just to leave the service of AOL would cost you as much as your giant expensive computer at the time.
Mm-hmm. Which had a tube based monitor that was like 50 pounds.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
there's just, I don't know, man. There's just nothing that I can say. I will never respect AOL. And a lot of people, here's what's funny. I know it sounds like I'm attacking AOL and blah, blah, blah. Well, the world has become so soft that a person can't really have an opinion anymore without somebody coming through, to attack that opinion. Well, here's my opinion. You know, any business that tries to trick a person or scare a person into staying with their service, or you somehow magically owe them some ridiculously expensive amount of money, no, they're gonna have to come and take it from my pockets in person.
Bro, I know how you feel. I never pay interest on anything. If they tell me I gotta get a loan and there's so much interest, screw that loan.
Yeah,
The
you
only
know
way I'm paying
um
a fig is if somebody breaks my legs.
since we are just floating around from topic to topic, I feel like now's a great time to throw this in there. The world really has become this kind of place. We've got the Generation Xers and the Millennials. They were grown up in a privileged world. This privileged world that they were grown up in didn't see a lot of the wars and tensions that, our grandfathers and fathers saw. you know so now you see a lot of people, it's like, oh, you're a Republican and or Democrat, and you don't think like I do. You're a racist. You're a terrible, horrible racist pig, and you don't even deserve to live. you know this is because people have grown up in this babied, petted atmosphere, and they don't realize how terrible the real world really is. They want to pick on someone for having a different political point of view, but meanwhile, right across the borders of our country, in another country, people are stoning their own daughters to death for kissing a boy.
Hmm.
You know, um,
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, but there is extremes on both sides, you know.
There's extremes in society
Yeah.
anymore.
Yep.
People are not able to accept that other people have a difference of opinion or a different point of view.
Oh yeah.
It just completely tears someone down. It's like, what? You don't agree with me, or even worse, you don't agree with my opinion, and then it's just attack time.
Well,
You
see,
know,
that's the
um,
extremists that I'm talking about, the ones that attack. See, you've got, from what I can figure so far with the political views, you've got regular people that don't give a shit about anything. Then you've got people that believe in politics, believe in their way of life, conservative or liberal. And then you have these outside forces, which are extremist edgelord trolls that just want to come through and attack everything.
well, I mean, I will say this. I will say this, and this is as far as I will take my opinions on politics. My opinions are on how society acts, toward politics. But I
Yeah.
will say this: why side with the independents? You know, you've got Democrats, you've got Republicans, but why go in the middle? Does anyone anywhere actually think that the middle guys who basically will not take a stand for anything, they just flow either way they want to, wishy-washy, are ever going to win anything? Let me ask you guys anything, and I request comments on this. How many times has an independent candidate ever won anything ever?
They don't
There's no,
because
there's, right.
yeah. Um
There, it's important, and I say this, it's important to take a stand for what you believe in. It's important to back your beliefs, but
mhm.
don't think for a second that not taking a stand is making some sort of important gesture. Not taking a stand, not standing up for what you believe in, not supporting your beliefs basically just shows that you don't think enough of your own opinion. You don't think your own opinion counts for anything. Don't throw your opinion away. Don't throw your vote away in this middle ground bullcrap. Pick a side,
Yeah.
whether other people agree with that side or not.
I
You know,
do
pick the side. You know what I mean?
I do understand independence though, because you know you have to register the vote to be able to get a mailbox set up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are like, well, fuck it, I don't really want to mess with politics, I'll just go independent, you know. So I understand
Right,
them
but
doing that. But when it
well, let me
comes
ask you
time to
this. Let me
vote,
ask you
they
this.
should pick a side.
Well, let me ask you this. That same person that's like, I don't want to mess with politics, so I'm just going to go independent. That person is taking their vote. That's the same as
They're
saying,
throwing it
I don't
away.
yeah, that's the same as saying, I don't understand politics, or politics are too corrupt and complicated. I'm just not going to take a side.
Yeah.
Why does that person's, if that person doesn't understand politics, and if that person doesn't want to take a side, I say this to everyone, large and by far. If your opinion doesn't mean enough to you to stand up for something and take a side, then your opinion does not matter.
Yeah, that's, some of them just don't care about the whole scale of things, you know.
And I'm not saying that to insult people. I'm just saying, like, the only way for a person's opinion to have any value is to have values in your own opinions.
Yeah,
Somebody
that's the
somebody
way I
that's
was
just
raised.
right. Somebody that's just completely undecided and doesn't really care. Do they really think that I mean, that's why the independents can't even win an election for, dog catcher, you
Because they
know?
don't care. They're not going to put in the effort, man.
That's like you've got the Republicans and you've got the Democrats, and they're fighting like cats and dogs. And I disagree with the corrupted fighting that they do, but I will give them this: at least they care enough about their opinions
Yeah.
to fight about it. You see what I'm saying?
Well, when it comes to Republicans and Democrats, I try to keep in mind, even though I'm a Republican conservative myself, I try to keep in mind something that somebody told me once. You've got the left wing and the right wing, right?
Yeah.
What if I told you both wings belong to the same bird?
Well, that makes sense in the light that we are a unified nation, or we are supposed to be. Yes, the left wing and the right wing belong to the same nation, but in that respect, that's not saying the Democrats and the Republicans give the independents power, because the truth be told, the independents have no power. They can't
No,
win
I ain't going
anything,
that route. I wasn't even going that route.
you know.
No, what I'm saying is, okay, when we first come over, what the founding fathers was, from what I did on research, they were philosophical Republicans.
Right.
And then from there, the libertarian branch popped out because they had
Well,
conflicting ideas on each one. So,
let me give you a different philosophy on this. There are lots of people in this world, and I'm one of them. I don't like the idea of the wars and the fighting, especially the racisms. But let me ask you guys this. This channel, Tate Plays,
yeah.
when an actual war breaks out, if there are people outside of your home ready to run your home over with tanks and guns, do you honestly believe for a second that going outside and saying, hey, I don't support either side, please don't shoot, will matter to them?
You know what my response would be, Bubba.
I know. I'm just saying, like, what people don't realize is that
Yeah.
taking a side and standing up for something is very, very important. Because if you don't, look, how many murderers and killers in this world have stopped and not killed a person just because, that person didn't take a side? You know, they're harmless. That's the reason that a lot of people question, like, why don't we just stop fighting in the Middle East? And here's
You
the
can't
thing.
stop it.
Right, when you have an enemy that is dead set on your murder, that is dead set on getting rid of you, submitting and surrendering will not work. They don't want your surrender, they want your annihilation.
Yeah, so
This is this
it's survive or
right.
die.
Right. That is why taking sides and standing up for what you believe in is important. Because the wishy-washy people are the first people to get attacked. And I give you politics as an example. Where are the independents today? The independents have no real power anywhere because their opinion is too wishy-washy, sways to the left and to the right, just whatever suits them at the time. It's
Well,
these people who aren't afraid to speak their opinions. It's these people who aren't afraid to stand up for their opinions. The Democrats have a lot of power. The Republicans have a lot of power. The independents who don't give enough about their own opinion to stand up for what they believe in and choose don't have a lot of power. It is important to choose a side and stand up for what you believe in and support what you believe in, whether it's Republican or whether it's Democrat.
oh yeah, I'll stand up for what I believe in and everything, but if somebody comes to me with a different opinion, I'm not going to tell them that their opinion is necessarily bad. I'm just going to tell them I don't believe in that. You know.
I mean, my belief on it is like this. I've known you for a very long time, over 25 years. You've known me for the exact same amount of time. And I can say that Tate is really not that kind of guy. You can think whatever you want to think, and he's not going to become enraged or irate.
Yeah.
But Tate knows me, and he's known me for just as long. Tate knows that I'm the exact opposite. If I don't agree with your opinion, it better be removed from my face, or there will a fight happen.
Oh yeah, you're a very passionate fella.
I am, and I don't mean to be, but it's just, there are certain things that, let me give you an example, and this is a more recent example. You know that I'm a little bit spiritual. Yes, I'm a scientist. Yes, I study science. Yes, it blows people completely out of the water. It's like, oh my gosh, he's got a PhD in quantum physics, but he also believes in God. My mind is blown. Yuck. Oh, I can't stand that
But
shit. Cannot
don't
stand it.
if you look at the top scientists at C.E.R.N, they're telling you that through supersymmetry there is proof of a creator.
Dude, like, there's been proof of a creator since the beginning. Okay,
I
now
know,
that's just my
I know.
opinion. But the truth be told, here's the real truth. The scientific truth. There is no proof that there's not a God. There is no proof that there is. And we're talking like from the science books. So it doesn't matter who gives you their opinion on the existence of God. It is not backed by science. It is solely an issue of faith. Do you believe or do you not believe?
Well, yeah.
Now, when you study physics enough, as I have, you come to understand, dimensional string theory. You come to understand that there's the first, second, and third dimensions where we live, right? There's higher dimensions, like the fourth, which is time, like the fifth, which is space, okay? When you go into these higher dimensions, you also conceive that there's the possibility that life exists in higher dimensions.
Oh,
Now, if anyone can tell me that life can exist in higher dimensions and yet that God is an impossibility, I would like to smack that person with a science book.
it's
Legitimately.
it's a logic fallacy.
You know, I'm not saying that he is for real for certain there, right? That's not what I'm saying. But to say that it's an impossibility when you're speaking about quantum physics and string theory, which are telling you, like, of course, life forms can exist in higher dimensions. Of course, it's theoretically possible there's a God. And then for some, person who just has some sort of agenda, you have to believe like I do, or you worship fairy tales. I can't stand those people because 99 times out of 100, when I run into those people that tell me that I worship fairy tales, they know not the first thing about quantum physics, and it irritates me to no end.
Right.
And I know I'm getting a bit all out of shape here. I get passionate on my subjects. Continue with us something to talk about, Tate.
I have no clue how we got off on all that.
I'm really good at that. In a few minutes from now, we'll be talking about ghosts, then aliens, then ice cream. Trust me, I know this.
And for some reason, ice cream will lead into ISIS.
No, ice cream will actually lead into Bose-Einstein condensate,
Which we could use to destroy ISIS.
Well, I'll tell you what we could use to destroy ISIS. And this is where a lot of people will disagree with me. But let me tell you guys something. Anybody who is very studied, anybody who's read a lot of literature, there are people out there who have read the book called The Art of War, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Art of War tells you straight up, like, look, you cannot go before your enemy and show weakness and surrender. If your enemy has any honor, they will put you out of your misery for doing that and showing that weakness. Mm-hmm. The only option you have is to fight your enemy.
Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying, man, why don't we just do the best thing that we've done through history and annex them motherfuckers and come back?
Well, the problem is that a lot of people have the wrong idea. And of course, this will be where I lose a lot of people, but I'm just trying to be right here. I'm trying to be the guy that, is a scientist, that does think with rationality. People get all caught up in the idea that, these people are doing this or these people are doing that. Yes, they are terrorists, and all terrorists need to be taken care of, right? That goes without saying.
Yep.
But one thing that I cannot tolerate and that I do not accept is the ideology that all Muslims are bad people. That's just untrue. That's uneducated.
All of them are bad.
That's an uneducated belief, because you can believe me. Not all Americans back Donald Trump and what Donald Trump's doing, right? Okay, these are corrupt leaders of nations that are doing what they want with the money and power that they have. I can guarantee you that the majority of Muslim people out there just want peace as much as we do.
When you're talking about Trump and what he's doing, what are you talking about? Because if it's about the ban from people coming from war-torn countries,
well, I mean, you know how I feel. Now, you know how I feel about the ban. Now, I'm going to try not to be as passionate about this topic because ultimately I'm not. I don't run a country, right? Sometimes you have to take your faith and your patience and put it into the guy that is running the place, right? I look at it like this: he's the president. All right. If he doesn't know what he's doing, at least someone in the White House does, right?
Yep.
So if they're making these decisions for these wartime bans, I support the wartime bans. I get that. However, what I do not support is the idea that America has enough immigrants. Okay,
No,
I
I
don't
don't
support that
support that
because,
either. If it's legal immigration, have free, have at it. You know,
well, it's not
because
just that, brother Tate. If you want to look back through history, I'm part Native American, and you could have at one time said you were part Native American, but you had that ancestry DNA test done,
oh yeah,
and no, you are not.
no, I'm 100%
But
European, but I don't know how the hell that works.
well, I mean, I've got my theories that they just take a little dartboard and throw it at a map, and they just pick.
Yeah.
But that's just my theory. But what I'm saying is, I'm legitimately part Native American. You know, um, here's the thing: unless you're fully 100% Native American, if you're here in America, you're a fucking immigrant.
True.
Okay? So I think that it's very hypocritical for any American, even Native Americans at this point, because look, a lot of people have this weird stereotypical idea of a Native American. Do I sound anything at all like a Native American to you?
No.
Those old TP cultures, leather-backed, horse-riding, face paint, feather-wearing, that's a dead culture, man. That hasn't been around in hundreds of years.
Well, I mean,
You
some
can't,
tribes
you know,
do preserve it, but they only preserve it for ceremonies.
they only preserve it for ceremonies and gift shops. Let
Yep.
me ask you, any Indian reservation you've ever went to, did they not have a gift shop there?
Oh, fuck. When I went to the Indian reservation, they were in blue jeans and t-shirts, man.
Selling things from gift shops and little stands, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, they take the idea that people look, there's a fascination with American Indians. People look back on American Indians and say, look at those honorable people who fought and died for their country, and they may have lost, but they weren't enslaved and they died with honor. And people have this romanticized idea of the Native Americans. But as a person who is part Native American, let me tell you something. Native Americans did lose a lot. We did, but we didn't lose much more than other races of people lost, right? Because what Native Americans are left, okay, we're running tax-free gift shops, and we don't got to pay taxes. Okay, we don't. I mean, I'm only part Native American. I have to pay taxes, right? I'm not full-blooded Native American. I'm talking about the full Native Americans. They can run their little gift shops, they can run their casinos, and they don't have to pay a dime to the government. Every penny they earn is theirs.
Plus, there's also college tuition. There's also religious rights to where if you go to a courthouse, you can pack so much of a certain substance to be able to perform your rituals legally.
Right. And I understand that there may be some Native Americans out there that be like, well, I find that offensive to say. Well, I'm not fully Native American. I'm not. I haven't ever once in my life lived the life of a Native American. Okay? You see what I'm saying?
All I gotta say that's really gonna piss people off and get them commenting and trolling is, ha 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 ha, I was on the winning side of history, bitch.
People get too caught up in groups. People get too caught up in groups.
Yep.
Everyone that's alive today, everyone that's hearing this message, everyone that has food in their refrigerator, everyone that has a child that hugs them and smiles at them in the mornings, everyone alive today was on the winning side, Tate.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying.
You know?
I'm just saying. I did it just to fuck with the trolls.
I know. People spend too much time separating themselves from others.
Yeah.
When we realize that, we as a human race, not as one culture or another culture, we as a human race have
Oh,
been through enough. We've been through enough wars, we've been through enough violence. Everyone has. And it's time we started, you know, working together and realizing that we're in this together rather than we're in this as separatists.
I put it this way: I believe in the human species. I don't believe in the human race.
Well, you know how I feel about it. I'm just trying to sound all politically correct. I hate people,
Yeah.
dude.
Oh yeah, I'm the same
I
way.
hate people, right? Because let me tell you about people. People are the same people when you go onto Twitter and you have the mildest opinion about something. You have to defend that opinion for hours to people who are insulting your intelligence. And I try to tell them, like, look, guys, you know, it's just an opinion. You realize that to attack someone for a difference of opinion is fascism, correct? And they're like, I'm not fascist, you're just retarded, or something like that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. People are so eager to one up the other person. They're so eager to attack another person. They're so trigger happy with their anger in this hostile political environment that it's no longer about communication and sharing thoughts and ideas. It's about how can I one up this person? How can I benefit from this interaction?
You know what we used to call those in my day?
What did you used to call them?
Miserable pricks.
Uh, we had a different word. You know that I grew up in a deeper part of the country.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
than
But
you. Like I lived in the legitimate country where my parents raised pigs and cattle.
I
Right?
lived there half my
We
life.
we called those people. Let me see if I can put it into proper words.
You gonna do it? You gonna do it?
That's what we called those people. I mean, it wasn't so much a spoken language, but that was the name for those people.
But no, man, I call them miserable pricks, and the reason I tell you why is a person who's miserable and not happy with their own life has to change somebody else's life because they can't control their own.
Well, let me tell you something about happiness.
You know?
Have you ever considered the idea? Have you ever considered the idea of sanity?
Yeah, it's not a
Have you ever
thing.
thought? No, sanity is an illusion. Sanity is this thing that everybody tells you is the norm, but nobody really is. And everybody that's listening right now is sitting there thinking, this guy's saying sanity ain't real. Let me ask you something, person that's listening at random. How many times have you wondered about what you're thinking, if that's a normal thought, or this desire you had, if that's a normal desire? And how many times have you corrected yourself and said, I can't do this because it's not right to do? Sanity is an illusion that only the happiest of people believe.
Oh yeah,
Everybody is freaking insane.
dude.
And the only thing holding, yeah, you know, that's right. The only thing holding us together is that illusion of normality.
The norm is the biggest illusion that the government will ever pull on you. It's like, oh, you don't think this way. Well, here's our drugs. Take these, and then
You
they
don't
get
take
you
my drugs.
hooked, and then you fucked.
You can't have my drugs. Them's my drugs.
I'm just saying that's how they get everybody hooked on drugs. It's like here's, you're not normal, so we're gonna give you medication. But if you
Well,
look at 75% of the population being not normal, then that flips the idea of normalcy on its fucking head because the majority is the exact opposite of what it's supposed to be.
well, really all it is it's society maintaining and moderating itself. Now look, you know that I believe in intelligent design. In fact, I believe in God. But at the same time, a person would be remiss if they didn't look around at society and see what's really keeping people in line. What's keeping that guy down the street that we all know from just breaking bad and climbing a water tower and shooting people? The fact that
He
his
goes
mother
to
and his
jail.
father. Right. Well, it's not just that. There's also the fact that his mother or his father, since birth, have told him there are certain things you can and cannot do, and if you do this thing, you'll go to hell or you'll go to jail. You know that there's punishments.
Yep.
People are being made to conform. Now, I'm not saying that that guy down the street has the right to climb that water tower. But what I am saying is the only thing keeping that guy from climbing that water tower is fear from others.
I'm
There is
gonna,
no such thing as sanity.
since you know me, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say if that guy who was about to climb the water tower had received multiple ass whoopings as a child, he would not be climbing that tower.
You know, that's what's funny about multiple ass whoopings as a child. That's one of those things that, you know, I could half agree with and half disagree with, because let me tell you what, how a person turns out is as much their choice as it is outside stimuli. Because that same child that received multiple ass whoopings could grow up to be a really great person, or he could grow up to be a twisted, evil prick.
Well, see, the thing is you got to know when to bust ass, because if you're just whooping him for no fucking reason, he's going to turn into a twisted prick because he thinks the world's out to get him. But if you
Well, let
bust
me
his
tell you
ass
guys
when
what.
he steals, lies, cheats, messes around,
I mean, I hate to be this guy, but on the psychological level, the world is out to get you. Every last one of you. Me and Tate, too.
oh yeah,
Look,
definitely,
everyone you meet, everyone that you believe that is your close this or that,
yeah,
everyone is in, everyone is after their own thing, right?
yeah.
So like you've got this girl that lives next to you that you talk to a lot, and it's so friendly and you think it's going somewhere, yay. Well, that's really just a chemical reaction. She either wants to do this thing with you, or she wants something from you, or you want something from her. People are not
That's why I
friends
love
just
whores.
because, I mean, some people do, but let me tell you what. I was raised in a family that told me one thing, and they made this clear to me. If you ever have to shell out a single penny for it, it's not worth having.
Well, don't you do that when you take them on a date?
You know, I have a different philosophy on that.
I'm just
Now,
saying, if you take a girl on a date, you pay for the date, you're paying for the end product of the goods, which is a 50-50 chance. You see what I'm
I,
saying?
I mean, I get what you're saying, and to some people that philosophy would make sense, but no, there are social rules in the way that families have been governed since the beginning of civilization.
Hmm.
It is expected that one person in the family at least will be a provider. Now, a family has to have a provider, right,
Mm-hmm.
for the family to function, because without that provider, there is no income and no influx of food, medication, necessities.
Oh yeah.
Now, here is the thing. Here is the thing. Now, if a person marries a woman who is a good woman and gives him kids, and he's given his wife this money to go to the grocery store, does that make her a whore? Or does that make him a good provider? See, there's the
That's
philosophical
both.
difference of like, no, it's not both.
It's
You
both.
know,
I mean, he's paying.
a whore is a person you pay money to, and you're not paying her the money for the sex, dude. You're paying her the money to go away after.
You're paying her for the momentary comfort in which you find while making love and compassion in that woman. Now, if you're doing that on a constant basis, even though you're married, you're still paying to keep that woman around. I challenge
And
you today, every man out there, cut your woman completely off, see how long she stays with you.
well, that's the thing. What you're doing there, Tate, and you don't realize it, is you're challenging every man out there to completely destroy their families. If you
I'm
cut
just
the woman
saying.
off, if you cut the woman off financially, how's she going to eat? How's
I'm
she going to
just saying.
feed the kids?
I'm just
I mean,
saying.
come on, dude. Come on,
If
man.
you're given payment for services rendered, then that's a thing. But I do believe in that construct. I do believe in being a provider. I do believe in paying for what you get. You know.
Well, then the way to look at it is like this. If you're a family man that wants a family, if you love your children and you want to take care of your children, you're not paying some whore for a service. You're footing the bill for your family and their well-being. I think
Yes.
that, it's just a philosophical viewpoint.
Yeah. There's a point at which it becomes more than just hoeing. I do agree with that. Yes. But you're still paying service, or you paying for services rendered.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, like, of course, you're welcome to look at it like that, and I've heard that philosophy from other people before. I just feel like that's more or less a popular buzz philosophy for people. Like, I honestly don't feel like, because really since the dawn of time, our genetics, Tate, in our very genetics, gear people to provide for their
As me.
families, to
Yeah,
go out
we
and
went out
hunt.
and we
Right.
killed animals to bring back for Nookie.
Right. It's not the nookie, man. It's not just the nookie.
Think about it. What is our drives? Eating, sex, shelter, sleep. That's the human's basic
Mm,
drives.
I feel
Love,
like we view it differently.
love is a construct of physical intimacy.
Well, as much as people want to break that down,
Yeah.
I will say this as a person who's actually experienced it a few times in my life. As construct, as much as people want to dissect what love is, it is a real thing. You
Oh
can
yeah.
love someone so much that that person is your whole life.
Oh
That's a
yeah.
real feeling, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I've seen older people literally die off because their spouse died. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That. I mean, that is one of your main drives, man. That's if you can't fulfill that drive, then
I mean, it's maybe one of your main drives if you're not one of those people that's walking around like, what is the meaning of life? What
ah
is the
fuck
purpose of
those
life?
guys. Those guys
For
don't
real,
even have
fuck those
souls.
guys. For real, fuck those guys. How dare someone ask what is the meaning of life? And if I've sparked anyone's interest, I dare you to comment because we will have a talk. Okay? We were given cognitive function. We were given
For a
intellect.
reason.
We can create our own meaning. You don't have to look for it under some rock, in some forest on Endor somewhere. We can choose what has meaning to us.
Yep.
We can create and give ourselves meaning. If you have to ask yourselves, what is the meaning? You're on the wrong path already.
Exactly. The meaning is fulfill your biological imperatives.
The meaning is whatever brings you the most joy, whatever gives you the most fulfillment. The
Mm-hmm.
meaning is something you get to decide. That's like, people get all broken up, when they lose someone in their lives or, something goes wrong. And people never stop to think that everything has a beginning and an end. They think, I've been depressed and I feel this bad and it hurts so much. And
Well,
I'm not saying that I'm any leader of depression. I'm just saying this is how I deal with depression. I take the realization that even depression doesn't last eternally.
no, it
The
don't.
night ends, the night ends and the sun rises again.
Yep.
You know, like don't give up because if you feel sad and you're hurting right now, that doesn't mean you will always be sad and hurting. Everything has a beginning and an end. And I understand that people take depression as one of those serious topics like, oh my God, how can you speak about depression to me, to others? It's such a serious issue. Yeah, it's a serious issue. It is. It's a serious issue, especially when people are doing serious things to deal with these issues.
Oh yeah.
But if people cannot stop and consider that everything, absolutely everything has a beginning and an end, and even depression does end. Now, if people can't accept that absolute factual truth, I don't know what to tell them.
Well, there's a song out there that explains it all. To
The
everything
Beatles,
there
there is
is
a
a
season.
season. Turn,
Yep.
turn, turn.
Now, if a person can jump my bones for saying that everything ends, even sadness, well, you're welcome to come and do that. I'm so ready for you.
Huh. Well, the thing is the person eventually dies over their lifespan at one point or another, so their sadness ends anyway.
Well, the question about death is kind of weird. You know, I have some really scientific thoughts on death.
hmm But let me ask you something. Do you believe a soul that is so frayed and torn, that is in such deep depression that it just wants to disappear, would keep on going?
Hmm. Yeah, I do. And I'll tell you why.
Hmm.
Let me ask you this. On the principle of energy conservation in Physics 101, can energy be destroyed? Can energy just stop existing?
It can be converted to potential energy, which is nothing.
Potential energy is not nothing.
Well, it's something from seemingly nothing.
It's just a different form.
Yeah.
It's still potential energy. Look at what potential energy can do, Tate.
Yeah, oh yeah, dude. You split an atom that's just sitting there resting. Ho ho!
What I'm getting at is E equals mc squared. And for a quick rundown on E equals mc squared, energy is equal to mass times the speed of light in the vacuum of outer space. Or for people who aren't, that deep into physics, mass is energy. Your body is made up of energy. It's a different form of energy called physical matter. But
Yeah.
it is energy that was created through its interactions with the Higgs field. Okay,
Okay.
that's how physical matter came into being.
Be right back, bro. I've really got to take number one.
All right. All right, make it so, number one. So now that I don't have to argue with Tate, I guess I could run this afterlife theory by you guys. If anybody's still listening, somebody at some point will listen. Okay, look. Now we're talking physics books here. Grab your Wikipedia. If you have any questions, grab your internet and just confirm some of these theories. There's a law called the law of energy conservation. And what that states is you can't create energy from nothing, which is basically the problem with free energy. You have to convert energy from one form to another form to get energy. Now, take into consideration what I just told you about E equals mc squared and how nuclear physics seems to work. Physical matter converts itself into energy and energy back into physical matter. That's nuclear fission and fusion. That's what those two principles are. All right, so our physical matter, what we're made out of, is energy. But not only that, inside of our bodies, our brains and our hearts are actually being defibrillated and running off of 15 watts of bioelectricity. Like, this is the kind of electricity that could actually shock you. This is why they can take things and shock your brain or your heart back to life if it stops, right? Because our consciousness is fueled off of energy. Now, knowing that our physical bodies are energy and our consciousness is also energy, right? How could something like physical death stop a person's consciousness? If you consider that our consciousness, our thoughts, our being are an energy process, right? So our consciousness must go somewhere. It must be transformed or converted into another form. This is where I get the principles from the scientific standpoint that an afterlife is possible. Because by the laws of energy conservation, you think, you feel, you act, you laugh, you love, you taste. That can't just stop. It cannot just go away. It cannot be just destroyed. Your consciousness must be, by scientific law, converted into another form.
Well, let me ask you something about that.
Okay.
Okay, squeaky chair inbound. But here's the thing. I've heard within Christianity there is an idea of what's called the second death.
Right. So now we're going into Christianity, and let me explain this real quick before we get into the subject of Christianity. Now, I am a studied Christian. Yes, I am. I'm also a studied scientist. I never mix the two, right?
But they
I
should
carry
be
both
mixed.
beliefs. Well, they don't always mix correctly. That's just the fact. Um,
Here's the thing, though. There's so many technologies hidden within the Bible that people don't really see as technology because of the wording. They can't get past the words for the
well,
statement.
now here's the deal about that, and I'll be glad to touch up on that for you. People see this, what they would call technology in the Bible, and then you've got these old-fashioned people. I'm just going to use the terminology of these old-fashioned people that just want to call it God's power or God's miracles. Now, there's always going to be those people that just simply want to accept that God's using magic or miracles to do things, and that's their prerogative to do.
Mm-hmm.
But through physics and through scientific understanding, we have some pretty good ideas on how some of these miracles came to be.
Oh, yeah.
So you can say that the Ark of the Covenant was a giant static battery that charged itself as they walked across the sand. And you can say that this amazing power that it stored is what shocked people when they touched it.
A
Does that make it
capacitor.
any less? Right. Does that make it any less one of God's miracles? No, it doesn't. That just, from a scientific standpoint, that just kind of explains why it physically worked how it did.
Oh,
They got the idea from their God. They assembled it and put it together just how their God told them to do it. That
yeah.
doesn't mean that it's not one of God's miracles. It just means that through physics and through science, we can kind of sort of come about an understanding of how it worked. You know, it's just like
Yeah.
it's just like with astrophysics. You get the understanding of how old the universe is and how
Mm-hmm.
planets formed. But does that take away anything from the belief in God?
No.
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 From a scientist who does believe in God, all that tells me is that's how God did that.
Okay.
That's all.
Here. Now, you know that I'm a fellow believer. You know that nothing is under attack here, so anybody who is attacking any beliefs on this channel will be banned. You know. But here we go. Let's see, where was that? Where was it? Oh yeah, yeah, Arthur C. Clarke. Do you remember the quote from him?
Well, I mean, he was kind of a well-known author. Which quote?
Any technology, any
Oh,
advanced
yes, will be viewed
technology
as magic
is indistinguishable from magic.
to a group of people that cannot conceive the principles.
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's a very good quote that you've got going on right there. Here's the thing: when I start talking science, and I also start talking the Bible, and I start trying to put the two together, you have to understand the situation that I'm in. Okay,
Okay.
so I've got a group of Christians on one side and a group of scientists on the other,
Yeah.
and they don't want to be brought together.
Oh no, they've always fought with each other, but it is the same thing. I mean,
Well, see, the Christians will get offended that I try to take something that God did, and instead of calling it an out and out miracle, which
well,
it still is just the same miracle. I'm just trying to explain how, from a scientific standpoint, I think that miracle occurred.
I
You
tell
know, and from the scientist okay, go ahead.
I tell you what, from my point, I'll examine and question, and then you can give me a deliverance from your point. Would
Okay.
that be better?
I mean, that's fine. Anyhow you want to do it. This is your channel. I'm just fussing at people.
No, I mean because it does conflict with, belief systems. That way I can be the heathen and you don't have to.
Well, no, because look, it's just like what I was telling you earlier. Now, my very last goal that I want to do is I do not want to offend Christians. I don't. Those are my people.
Mm-hmm.
That is. That is something, I really want to stay in good shape with the Christians, and I really want to stay in good shape with the science people, but there's no way to talk about, Christianity and science together in one place without someone getting offended. Well, I'm that guy, okay? I'm a Christian, and I'm a scientist, and I have my own opinions. Come at me. That's all I can say.
I was going to take the wrath for you, but since you made that statement,
You know, what
yeah.
can I say?
But okay, transmogrification. You know about that, or
Hmm.
transmutation,
Transmutation,
or,
yes.
or transfiguration. Uh,
Well, no, I mean, if we're going to go with transmutation, you're getting into alchemy, and you may as well look. If it's a horse, call it a horse.
yeah. Well, I'm just saying, in future science, it may be a possibility because if you can manipulate the atoms of a subject to turn it into something else, then you just unlock transmogrification or
Well,
transmutation.
dude, we've been taking atoms and turning it into something else since particle accelerators, since nuclear fission, for that matter.
Well, then you've unlocked the key to transmutation. Um,
Dude, like people want to make transmutation out into something big and huge, dude. As far back as 2011, we were able to take a molecule of lead and turn it into gold in a lab.
yes, that's what I'm saying. If you can do this, well, if you can turn lead into gold, isn't that kind of similar
Well,
to water to wine?
mm, now here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, I've never really given it a lot of thought on how Jesus turned the water into wine. But let me ask you this. If someone were able to, you know, through some sort of energetic force, because remember, we were talking earlier about how everything is energy. We've got our common concepts of what energy is, and then when you add on top of that Einstein's relativity, which states that, you know, matter is basically energy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I mean, from an energy standpoint, you know, just from the energy scale alone, me and you are no different or even separate from that glass of wine.
Yep. But I'm just saying, if transmogrification from water to wine is anything similar, which it could be something completely different.
Well, you have to consider something. Now, did you ever have this when you were a kid? It was called the Mega Constructor set. It was these little metal pieces and these little balls, and you could build stuff with it.
Yeah.
All right. Now, imagine that you've got a handful of like 30 atoms, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you're not just taking one atom and rearranging that one atom into a different formation. You can take pieces from another atom and another and yet another and get as many pieces as you need to form that one particle how you
Mm-hmm.
want it. Okay? So basically, if a person had complete control over energy manipulation and they could control how atoms, you know, are formed together, yeah, you could turn water into wine, but you could also turn water into chocolate, pizza, infrared light.
I'm just saying that, I mean, that in itself shows that science and the Bible can be one and the same.
Well, they can be one and the same, but you have to understand. You have to understand there's resistance.
Oh, yeah.
There's resistance from there's resistance from both sides. It's just like now I'm not trying to play down what Dr. Martin Luther King said or did, but Dr. Martin Luther King years ago said he had a dream and that we could all be one and the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was resistance,
Oh,
right?
there's
It
always
all
going to
comes
be.
down to yeah, it comes down to are people willing to accept that? And here's the thing, you know, and this is where I'm coming from. I'm passionate about my own opinions, but I'm not going to, you know, approach another person and tell that other person that what they believe is wrong or that their opinion is incorrect because they're entitled to their opinion. They're entitled to their thoughts, you know, even if
Mm-hmm.
their thoughts oppose my own. They are entitled to that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, which is the same reason why I have these passionate opinions about science and Christianity.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to argue with a group of scientists or a group of Christians
True.
about these things, because they have their rights to their opinions as much as I do mine.
True, true, but I'm not even trying to get into the whole social structure of it all. I'm just saying, could the subjects relate? I mean,
Well, I think the subjects do relate. I haven't found a single issue between science and the Bible that can't be explained scientifically, but that's just me,
there we go. I mean,
you know.
yeah, that's that's the kicker.
I mean, you have to realize, man, this is something that a person learns later on in their education. You eventually reach a point in a subject of study when you realize that arguing with people is simply a waste of time.
It is.
It is an absolute it's an absolute waste of resources and time because you can prove, if that's for you, I can hold on for a second.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute the mic and
So I don't know if my mic's muted or if I'm still on with the crowd. If I am still on with the crowd, here's what's up. Like, I'm very passionate about my own opinions, but I'm not going to tell, you guys that what you believe is wrong. These are my opinions based on study and scientific theory, but, you know, you can believe whatever you want to believe. If you're comfortable believing something that is completely the opposite of what I believe, well, that's your prerogative to believe and follow that, and I actually support that. You know, my thing is why I'm so passionate with my opinions is, have any of you ever, recently tried to have an opinion online or on Twitter or on Facebook? There's always a group of people that come to argue just because you had an opinion and vocalized it. Um, I'm just not that guy. I'm gonna have my opinions. I'm not gonna argue them with people. They're my thoughts. They're my feelings about things. Um, I'll say them to people. I'll share them with people. But I'm not gonna defend them and argue them with people. If people don't, follow my opinions, that's their choice. You know. I'm not trying to get a large group of followers. I hopped on a video and I said my opinions about a few things. You know. So I don't know if Tate's talking on the phone. I don't know if my mic's muted. I really don't know what's up. And I'm almost sure he left me on here live on the air by myself.
yeah, I got somebody wanting me to mod Xbox and to jailbreak an iPad.
Oh, right on, right on. Are you still on live?
Uh, Give me a minute. I've got to
All right.
I've got to get off the phone and finish this up, and then I'll talk to her.
Do do do. Do do do. Do do do. What's up, baby puppy? Huh? So yeah, I know the dead air time is not a popular thing on a YouTube live stream, but I mean, you know, I don't know what else to do, guys. So I'm checking my email, waiting for the host to get back.
Sorry, had somebody want me to replace a screen on a phone,
Right on, right on.
and I told her, I said, hey, look, if it wasn't for the parts being so delicate, I would be able to do it, but the problem is when I go to trying to pay attention, my hands shake, and then I would break the parts, so it's no good.
So it was an iPhone and not an iPad.
Well, see, there's an iPod, not an iPad, that he wants jailbroke. There's a Xbox that he wants modified, and there's
What kind?
I'm not for sure if it's the 360 or if it's the old Xbox. I know there ain't no way in hell I'm modifying an Xbox One.
I don't know. They're all equally easy to mod, man. There's a little chip with 3 wires that you can order. You can get it on Amazon, man. 3 little dots of solder. Take the bottom off, bottom of the board. You know, poof, poof, poof. It's modded.
Yeah, but we're not supposed to tell how to do that online.
Oh, were we not?
No.
I had no idea. I didn't even know there was rules against that.
Yeah, they don't like that information to get out, man.
Oh, my bad. There's not a little chip with 3 wires that you cannot order from Amazon, and you cannot easily install it on any Xbox with 3 small dots of solder.
Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. But yeah, I told her, I said, look, because I had to explain that jailbreaking would break any warranty. Manufacturer.
Well, I mean, if the screen's already broken, they're sending it to you to fix the screen. I'd say there's no warranty anyway.
Oh no, she was talking to multiple people in a tobacco barn, man, out here in the middle of.
Oh snap! Did she just drop it then? Did it just become broke now?
No, it was multiple people with multiple things that they were wanting fixed.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's not that hard to do. You would have to charge them the right amount, though, because at the same time, you're going to have to order the right tools. You know, it takes special little bitty tools to get the glass screen off of an iPhone.
Not only would I have to order tools, I'd have to order the part. Not only that, I'd have to have steady enough hands to connect the little parts without ripping them apart. You know, and the more I concentrate on trying to do a task, the more nervous I get, which means the more I shake. You know.
Well, see, all you need to do that work better, man, is to get you one of those little magnifyings with a stand. You know, like a jeweler uses? It's like this little screen magnification thing that you can just, you can swivel it, turn it any way you want. People that work on small circuits use those all the time. It's basically like a jeweler's eyepiece.
It's not so much the seeing it as the worry about damaging the product, which makes my hand shake and it fuels the cycle.
Well, then do like I do when people bring me stuff to work on. You know, it's like, look, I'll try to do what you want me to do, but I make no guarantees and I don't reimburse for stuff I accidentally break. You brought your computer to a shade tree mechanic. You get what a shade tree mechanic does. That's what I tell people. Look, I had one person, man, try to hit me up for accidentally breaking something, you know. Um, and what it was they ordered some cheap memory off of Newegg.com years and years ago,
Oh,
and it
geez.
came from the box. Yeah, it was already static
Kingston, wasn't it?
shocked. Yeah, and the memory wouldn't recognize in the board. I got to looking at the board, and what had fried it was, you know how the memory slot can sometimes come unseated from the board.
Hmm. If it arcs
Yeah,
those
well
right.
yeah, and dude tried to charge me for the motherboard and the memory, and I was like, look, dude, I'm not paying a dime for some cheap ass electronics you ordered off of Newegg.com for $25.
Yeah. Well, there's another
You know, and
thing that can cause that too because I did it by accident on one of mine. But
well, I mean, if you're careful, if you're careful enough, and brace the machine like you're supposed to, you shouldn't static shock nothing.
well, see, there's a thing about them older computers, man. See,
Mm-hmm.
them older computers didn't have a step up or a step down for the voltage regulation through the memory or the CPU. And if
No, it didn't. I remember the older ones. They done that through the power supply.
mhm. And if you got, uh, say, so much of a frequency memory stick, which was higher than what the slot called for, it would
Mm-hmm.
overwork the slot and burn the motherfucker up. Like literally poof,
Well,
flames.
that's why there were all those little dip switches back there, though. You had to set those.
I didn't know anything about that back
Oh, are you kidding? The dip switches was the first thing I learned.
then. I had no clue. I burnt my own computer up with Kingston memory, bro.
No, like, for real, the guy that taught me, like, I studied under a guy for a little while. Well, actually, for several years first, because when I went to take my A+ cert test, man, I pretty much just walked in, paid him $50 and walked out. It was that easy.
Yeah.
But I studied under a guy for, handful of years. And, like, I just got lucky because, I mean, he taught me, he's like, this is the first thing you need to know, or you're going to fry a bunch of shit.
I studied under you, but we were both stoned back then.
Oh, dude, are you kidding me? I don't even remember half of what I taught you.
Right.
No, this is a true fact, man. When I got electronics that needs working on, I've had so many mental meltdowns over the years, and I forgot so much from being so stoned. Like, even though I taught this guy how to work on electronics, when I need something fixed, I send it to him.
Yep.
It's true. True story.
Yep. Yep. I do my best. I'm not the best, but I do my best when I do what I do.
Dude, I've had so many mental breakdowns, man, over electronics over the years. If I can't fix it with a rubber mallet, I'll send it to you.
I like that. If I can't brocade adjust that bitch, it's coming to you.
That's right. I remember, man, when my computer broke down the last time, my first thoughts were, okay, do I have a breakdown over this or do I just send it to Tate? And then I was like, do I even care that it broke down? And later on, I came to the conclusion that no, I didn't care that it broke down anyway.
Shit. Although when you brought your PS4 to me, man, I kind of made you do the stuff that involves the little complicated circuitry.
Well, I mean, that was something I kind of wanted to do anyway because I had never tore a PS4 down at that point, and I was just real interested, you know.
What's in there?
I have I have to admit, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, you know,
Oh yeah.
but it is still kind of funny how a PS4 is built. Like, you think that it's inside a box or a shell, and it's really not. There's like these 4 different rings that serve as the top, the bottom, and the middle pieces, man. The way the PS4 built is genius, you know.
It's just layer on top of layer on top of layer. I honestly don't see how the some bitches don't overheat.
I don't see how it holds itself together, honestly, but it does.
But that fan in there, man, that Optimus Prime's nipple,
I know, right?
jeebus.
And that's the first thing. That's the first thing that a lot of people will have go out in their PS4s if they're not having them go out right now. If you were like me and you got a first-gen PS4 when it first hit the market, I would say by this point your fan has already stopped.
Oh yeah,
You know.
guaranteed, dude.
So like, yeah, changing a fan, let me tell you what, guys, what, you can freak out if you want to, but for $60 you can order everything you need in a little kit off of Amazon, and 2.5 hours you can have that PS4 up and going for $60 for the price of a game.
Yep. And it's better than buying a new one for like $300-400.
Yeah, because I mean, the fan that I actually pulled out of the PlayStation 4, the factory fan, wasn't as good a quality as the one I ended up ordering from Amazon and putting in it. And so, yeah, I highly suspect this fan won't go out in 2 years.
It may have a better machine life, but everything has a machine life.
I mean, that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. I mean, even biological machines have a machine life.
Mm.
That's why, whether you're a super genius or whether you're just an ordinary person, mental breakdown happens. I mean, take people who are, not mental geniuses, they still get things like Alzheimer's.
Oh yeah, but it seems like mental illnesses do run more in people with higher intelligence.
That's because when the guy that's super duper intelligence, with the super duper intelligence freaks out, he's not just having a mental meltdown. You're looking at a guy who is mentally dangerous at that point.
Yeah, because all that cold hard logic gets turned into emotion, and when that shit happens, it ain't good. We're talking like Third Reich levels of pissed off.
Yeah, we're talking like, you know, build your own water tower and craft your own gun kind of thing.
Out of soap and acorns.
Are you kidding? Out of dirt, man. Step up your game, brother.
I'm gonna have to start watching that Primeval guy, or Primitive
Yeah.
Technology guy.
Yeah, that primitive technology guy is awesome, dude. He literally goes out into the woods, into the forest, with nothing but his little GoPro so you can see what he's doing. He'll pick up sticks and twigs and even logs, and he'll use the sharp ends of these rocks and stuff he's picked up to dig these holes. And he'll take these holes that he's dug, and he'll put dirt in them and straw that he's found, and he will actually make this mud with straw in it. And he'll go and he'll start building a hut out of it. And the funny thing about him getting this mud hut dried out that he's built, he'll just load it up with more sticks and twigs, set the thing ablaze, and while it's burning down, it's actually curing the thing. And when he cleans it out, sweeps it out with a broom that he made out of flora and fauna that he found laying around, he's got him a home with a door on it. Then he'll go about building him a furnace out of dirt.
He'll build a
What really blew
kiln,
my mind,
a draft furnace.
yeah, what blew my mind was like when he started making the Spanish shingles, the Mexican tiles.
Dude,
Remember the hydro pump he made? It was crazy.
what got me was when he turned around and created a water powered hammer.
Yeah, that was the hydro pump.
That's right. You heard me right, guys. A water powered hammer. This dude doesn't even hammer his own stuff.
No, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, you're sitting here and you're watching this guy. You're like, what's he going to be able to do with just dirt and rocks and twigs and stuff he finds laying around? And, by the end of this series of videos, like, I'm halfway expecting him to build a Porsche out of, like, moss and stumps.
Yeah. Wait, what was it that you said? What, Benz or a Bentley?
Yeah, Mercedes-Benz, man.
He's going to build a Benz and then drive it out and have a shotgun that shoots acorns.
I mean, and what's weird is like this guy, he went into the whole making weapons for hunting thing, and he can make bows and arrows, he can make these spears, and he uses these rocks that he's found. And I mean, I guess he just knows a lot about the different kinds of geodes and stuff that he finds laying around, but he can break them into these really razor sharp points, and he can use them as knives, as spearheads, as arrow tips. And I mean, he actually showed us while he was using this bow and arrow, that it does shoot with enough pressure. He could hunt with this stuff.
I tried to stay on topic with the pictures, man, because I put the squid up, but after the squid, I just kind of left it. So this whole conversation
has been on top of a squid.
on top of a squid.
Well, that was the most Squidward move you could make, my brother.
Right, I pulled a total Squidward. Or no, it ain't even squid. It's an octopus, but close enough.
Mm.
Love it. But yeah, that primitive
But
dude, man, Jesus.
but I mean, I would say we've been at this for now close to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Either they're tired of hearing us or they're not, but I'm tired of talking to them, so there.
Alrighty, let's kill this thing out, man.
All right.
Oh, it was nice chatting with you here. That was SP from SP channel. Go check out his channel. Yeah, I've got like 6 subs, so don't expect a wild influx.
And guys, don't think for a second that I'm as much of an asshole as I sound like I am. This is an experimental channel where we're just, farting around. I'm really not that big of an asshole, except when I am. So, you guys have a good one. I hope to see you around. We'll probably be back anyway. Peace, guys.
Peace.